Hey, what is up you guys? I am going to show you how to make a couple of different statement headbands. These are trending all over the place right now, and I wanted to try to make my own using some recycled and upcycled materials. If you already have some headbands at home, that is perfect, but I actually didn't, so I had to pick these up from the dollar store. Unfortunately, they only had one that was wider like this, so I also had to pick up the thin ones, but I'll show you how you can turn those into wide headbands as well. For the fabric to cover your headbands, you can use any kind of scrap fabric or remnants. I picked up these leftover velvet remnants from my local secondhand craft store, but you can really use any kind of scrap fabric you have, like old shirts or material from past projects. And just as a tip, just so you can learn from my mistake, I would say getting a fabric that has stretch to it is going to make your life a whole lot easier whenever you go to cover your headband, so keep that in mind. Now, to make the puffy headbands, you'll also need some sort of batting, which a lot of times you can find remnants of that as well, but another useful handy material is actually shoulder pads. I always keep them just in case, and they would actually come in very handy for this project. As for your other materials, you'll need a hot glue gun or your glue of choice, any kind of embellishments that you might want to use. I've got these little mini pearls, some scissors, and some kind of ribbon to finish off the inside. These were just random ones that I had laying around. Another random useful thing that I like to keep and reuse are those random ribbons that come inside your clothing to help hang them up. I cut those out actually because I don't really need them. Okay, so to create our foundation for these headbands, if you have a wider headband like this, then of course you're already set. These ones, all I had to do was just chop off these random little ribbon tails. If you have these skinny headbands, however, you can kind of make your own by putting two together. What you see me doing here is actually reusing some of this packaging to create the structure and the width of the headband. But you can also cut a strip of cardstock to your desired width to use as your base as well. But basically you want to join the ends of the two headbands and then space out the middle to your desired width. I think I ended up doing like 1.5 inches here. Okay, so now we're going to do the padding of the headband, and it's really pretty straightforward. You just want to add layers of any batting or foam that you have, and just keep layering it on until you get the thickness that you like. It doesn't have to be perfect since we will be covering this with fabric, but try to keep them in even layers, that way your headband doesn't end up wonky and lumpy. And then after you've added some layers to the top surface of the headband, for the very last layer I used a larger piece to cover the sides as well, just to create one smooth surface before we cover it with fabric. And now we're moving on to covering it with fabric. Unfortunately, I didn't do any measurements here, so sorry about that. I kind of just eyeballed it, keeping a bit extra because you could always trim away excess, but it's harder to add more on. So what I did was fold the fabric in half and cut out a rectangle that is the height of the headband, plus a little extra of course, and a width to where there's about 2 inches on either side of the headband. So the covering of the fabric is a little bit fiddly and hard to show, so I'm going to try my best to explain it. It's a little more of a hands-on experience to kind of understand what you're doing. I started off in the center just so I could make sure that it was even. Add 2 lines of glue in the center of the headband right next to each other so that you can fold over the flaps of either side and glue those down, meeting in the middle, making sure to pull the fabric tight, and this will be your starting point. And the best method I found of doing this is actually having it on its side and then working with each side at a time, starting from the center and then working your way out to the ends. And then just go little by little, making sure to pull it taut every time and glue it down to the inside of the headband. Again, this is where the stretch fabric would come in really handy because you wouldn't have to deal with as many puckers as I am with this fabric because there's not much stretch in this one. And then once you've glued down both sides, you can cut away the excess fabric. For the ends, I didn't do anything fancy. I literally just pinched them together and folded it over, glued it down, and then trimmed away the excess. Now to clean finish the inside and cover up that raw seam in the middle, this is where the ribbon comes in. Just fold over the raw edge of the ribbon and glue it down from end to end, covering up that middle seam. And then you're done. Not the prettiest thing in the world on the inside because of all those gathers, But once you have it on, it's really not that noticeable, and having the stretch fabric will definitely help you. I did that for the next one, and it was much easier to cover the headband. Now that you have the basics, you can pretty much make these in any kind of fabric or color that you want, or with any kind of embellishments. For this next one, I made one in black so that I could add some of these little pearl beads. So I literally just did the same thing with the batting and the foam, and then covered it with this black stretchy material, and then just really simply hot glued the little pearls onto the surface in this little polka dot kind of pattern. And I think it turned out really cute and elegant. I feel like these kind of look like little crowns. For this last one, I made a braided headband, which I actually did a sneak peek of on my Instagram. For this one, you don't need any padding. You're just going to want to cover it with the fabric that you're using. Again, sorry, no measurements here, but basically you want to do the length of your headband plus 2 inches. And then for the width of it, just make sure that there's about 1 inch on either side of the headband so that you can fold it over. Again, starting in the middle, I am gluing down the fabric, this time directly to the headband. And then fold the ends over, which is why we had that extra inch on either side. And then at this point, I'm just trimming away some of that extra fabric that doesn't really need to be there. All you really need is enough to fold over the headband and have the raw edges meet in the middle. Then just add glue to the inside and fold over those side flaps. Once you have your covered headband, it's time to make the braid. For that, I'm going to cut 3 long strips about 2.5 to 3 inches wide. And then for the length, you want to make sure that it's longer than the outer circumference of your headband, because once you braid it, it will shorten. Once you cut out those strips, give them a little tug to curl the raw edges under. And then you can just pin or clip the ends together on one side so that you can start braiding. And then I went ahead and gave my braid a little zhuzh, but we'll play with that once we put it on the headband. To attach, start by gluing down the ends on either side, making sure to glue down all 3 of those pieces so that it doesn't become unraveled. And then once you have the ends down, you can go ahead and play around and fluff up the braid a little bit, make sure it covers the whole width of the headband. And once you're happy with the placement of it, you can go ahead and glue down the braid. And just like the other ones, we're going to use ribbon to clean off that inside raw hem. And then the very last step is to finish off the ends of the headband, which you could also use ribbon to do that by just wrapping the ribbon around the bottom, but I just decided to use some of the self fabric again. Just make sure you fold in any of the raw edges. It honestly really doesn't matter how you do this part because it's going to be hidden behind your ear or in your hair anyway, so yeah, that's really about it. If you decide to make these on your own, I would love to see your version. Please share it on Instagram and tag me at @TheRecreative so that I can see them, and use the hashtag #BeRecreative so that I can share your posts. Alright guys, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you found it at least a little bit helpful or interesting or inspirational. Let me know in the comments if you would try any of these statement headbands and maybe which one was your favorite. And definitely subscribe if you haven't already. I'd love to see you back here, and hope you all have a great one. Bye!